Don't know your X-Force from your X-Men? Wondering why everyone got so mad about the Merc without a mouth? Fear not. Here's everything you need to know about Deadpool's story on the silver screen. Following fan disappointment with X-Men: The Last Stand, Fox hoped to win audiences back with X-Men Origins: Wolverine, which was intended to be the first of at least 2 prequels. Wolverine wouldn't just appeal to fans by focusing on the most popular character, though. It would also introduce other favorites from the comics, such as Gambit and Deadpool, or at least that was the plan. Gambit came out relatively unscathed, even though the role ended up becoming something of a dead end for actor Taylor Kitsch. And then there was Wade Wilson. In fairness, this version of the character briefly had the character's wisecracks down.
You whip out a couple of swords at your ex-girlfriend's wedding? They will never, ever forget it.
First appearing on-screen as part of Team X, Wade is seemingly killed off-screen before showing up again for the climax, now called Deadpool, because he has been genetically modified to pool the abilities of multiple mutants. But in a truly shocking insult to the Marvel Comics character, his mouth is fused shut. So instead of the Merc with a mouth, he's pointedly called the Merc without a mouth. Wolverine defeats this Deadpool in a battle that causes the 1979 Three Mile Island nuclear meltdown. But then, in a post-credits scene that appeared at the end of some prints of the film, after Matthew Vaughn recaptured the fandom's goodwill with X-Men First Class, original trilogy director Bryan Singer returned to combine both timelines with X-Men Days of Future Past. This sequel sees Wolverine travel back in time from a Terminator-esque future filled with deadly mutant-hunting Sentinels. Arriving in the 1970s, he hopes to stop the destructive Sentinels from ever being invented. Wolverine succeeds, of course, and the filmmakers behind Days of Future Past decide to make use of the butterfly effect to clean up the franchise. Most notably, when Wolverine returns to his time, Jean Grey and Cyclops are still alive, meaning the events of X-Men: The Last Stand didn't happen in the newly reset continuity. The time Wolverine spends in the past ends in 1973, effectively canceling out most of X-Men Origins Wolverine as well, meaning that the version of Deadpool that fans so hated now never existed. It may be worth noting that these time travel rules do not apply to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in which altering the past creates a new, variant timeline rather than changing the old one. For now, though, that's not so important. All you need to know is that the stage had finally been set for Deadpool to begin anew. The 2016 movie Deadpool started the character from scratch, albeit in a timeline filled with mutants and X-Men. As far as he's aware, though, Wade Wilson isn't a mutant at first. He's just a smart-mouthed hitman for hire who falls for a woman named Vanessa. But before they can seriously plan their life together, Wade is diagnosed with terminal cancer. Exhausting his legitimate medical options, he signs up for a dubious program to activate any possible latent mutant genes in his system. Unfortunately for him, the only way to do that is to torture him to the brink of death, over and over again.
One thing that never survives this place is a sense of humor.
We'll see about that.
Eventually, a mutant healing factor kicks in, though it leaves his body looking like that of a severe burn victim. Hoping to extract a cure for his new appearance from his torturer, the mutant Ajax, Wade loses the fight and is left for dead. Now that his full powers have kicked in, though, he's virtually impossible to kill. Taking the name Deadpool, this time from a betting pool to see which local hitman will die first, he develops the red costume after realizing it won't show bloodstains as badly as his other options. Now a vigilante, Deadpool hunts Ajax's men to get even with his tormentor and possibly find the cure for his disfiguration. For a guy who seems like he'd be kind of a loner, Deadpool ends up on a whole lot of teams, whether impromptu or otherwise. First, there was Team X, and then there's the unnamed team that comes together to help save Vanessa from the clutches of Ajax. Stalwart X-Man Colossus and his trainee, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, leap into action alongside Wade, who also enlists the aid of the equally wisecracking Weasel, cab driver Dopinder, and his elderly friend Blind Al. These unlikely heroes provide effective backup for Wade, and they manage to save Vanessa. Unfortunately, the mission to extract a disfigurement cure from Ajax is a bust, since none actually exists. Luckily, since Vanessa still truly loves him, his scars aren't as big a deal as he thought. And at least he still has a mouth. Here's a question. In what timeline is all this actually happening? Colossus survived the changes Wolverine made to the original movies, as he's seen teaching a class at the end of Days of Future Past, albeit wearing his human skin. The version we see in Deadpool stays metallized the entire time, so it could conceivably be the same version, even if the actors aren't the same. Deadpool 2 also features a brief cameo by the First Class cast, implying the movie exists in that canon, even though they should be aged up to the Patrick Stewart timeline. As we know from the MCU's Multiverse saga, however, variants from other universes can look exactly like the ones we know, so that doesn't really prove anything. Wade's ability to break the fourth wall complicates matters even further.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.
The fact that he knows both James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart have played Professor X doesn't mean he's not in the same universe as either. However, the fact that he can actually obtain a cardboard cutout mask of Hugh Jackman, as well as a music box depicting Wolverine's death in Logan, suggests he is indeed living in another timeline, one in which Hugh Jackman is an actor. Then again, X-Men comics exist in the Logan universe, but Wade knows about the existence of Logan as a movie. So what's the deal here? Appropriately, Deadpool 2 director David Leitch answers the issue with a hand wave. He told Digital Spy, "I think Deadpool, because it's its own entity, we're flexible with the timeline per se, but we've never had a lot of conversations about that." Deadpool 2 begins with Deadpool getting sloppy and subsequently paying the consequences. Hoping to marry Vanessa and start a family, he finds his plans thwarted when a henchman he failed to kill earlier tries to shoot him and hits Vanessa instead. She dies, which the opening credits of the movie pretend is a huge shock. How could such a popular character be killed off so soon? Well, this actually happens so often there's even a name for it: fridging. The phrase, coined by comics writer Gail Simone, comes, ironically, from a Green Lantern storyline, in which Kyle Rayner comes home to find his girlfriend murdered and stuffed in the refrigerator. More generally, the term refers to the killing off of a female character close to the male hero in order to motivate his journey of revenge and/or build his character. Deadpool subverts this trope to a small degree in his most immediate response, which is to repeatedly attempt suicide. Unfortunately for him, he's almost impossible to kill. However, a vision of Vanessa in the afterlife encourages him to try to do good rather than wallowing in despair and hate. So, can he get past the anti and become a straight-up hero? Now sincerely hoping to join the X-Men, Wade dons a trainee jersey and once again teams up with Colossus and Negasonic to thwart a mutant calling himself Fire Fist. This kid seems to have gone crazy at a mutant re-education center, and Deadpool quickly susses that he is being abused. Killing the abuser instead of subduing the kid, Wade gets sent to mutant prison along with Fire Fist. With his mutant powers suppressed, Wade's super immunity disappears, allowing his cancer to gain a foothold once more. Then the story goes full-blown Terminator as the mutant Cable shows up from the future, determined to kill Fire Fist before he grows up and kills Cable's family. This would imply that Days of Future Past's time travel rules are initially in place here, such that if Cable changes the past, elements of his future present will never have happened. Cable's intrusion allows Deadpool to escape the prison, but Fire Fist still evades both their clutches after transferring to a new facility. In the comics, X-Force was a team created by Rob Liefeld out of the New Mutants, introducing the world to the likes of Cable and Domino. The trailers for Deadpool 2 promised that Deadpool would assemble X-Force on screen, with the lineup featuring Domino, Shatterstar, Zeitgeist, Bedlam, Vanisher, and lesser-known hero Peter. Much of the footage of them fighting in said trailers turned out to be a fake-out, however. With the exception of Domino, the whole team dies horribly, almost immediately.
Oh, God. I'm gonna throw up in my mask.
This leaves just Domino and Deadpool to break Fire Fist out of his prison transportation vehicle before Cable can get there first. Meanwhile, Fire Fist befriends and frees the massive Juggernaut in his quest for revenge against his abusers. Looking very different from the Vinnie Jones version of Juggernaut from X-Men: The Last Stand, this Hulk-sized CG creation either suggests we're in a whole new universe or proves that Wolverine seriously changed the timeline in bizarre ways. Before long, Cable agrees to work with Deadpool to potentially seek a peaceful solution before preemptively killing Fire Fist. Bringing in former and new allies, Deadpool effectively assembles a new de facto X-Force with Cable, Domino, and Dopinder. When Wade sacrifices himself to save the young mutant by taking Cable's bullet instead, Fire Fist has a change of heart, as does Cable, who uses up the last of his time travel fuel to go back a few minutes and save Wade too. Under the movie's time travel rules, Cable's future garb changes to reflect a changed timeline in which his family has been saved, and Wade lives. Notably, Wade's costume has also become so dirty that it resembles his gray X-Force suit from the comics. Cable also says he's willing to stay in the past for a little while, now that his family's safety is ensured, and Fire Fist becomes an ally too. A proposed X-Force movie probably would have featured this version of the team, perhaps with additional characters from the comics joining in. When Disney bought Fox, however, the need to milk this smaller chunk of the Marvel Universe became less essential, and an X-Force movie took a backseat to the demands of the greater Avengers saga. In the post-credit scenes in Deadpool 2, Wade commandeers the time travel device after Negasonic and her girlfriend Yukio find a way to refuel it. Not only does Wade go back in time to kill the version of himself from X-Men Origins Wolverine, but he also murders actor Ryan Reynolds before he can accept the role of Green Lantern.
You're welcome, Canada.
Around this time, Wade also makes a few other key decisions. He saves Vanessa for one thing, and also rescues Peter in the extended cut of the movie. He briefly contemplates killing an infant Adolf Hitler too, but finds that he's unable to bring himself to murder a small baby. Then again, there may be another reason for this. If killing Ryan Reynolds hasn't stopped the Deadpool movies from existing, there's no guarantee the death of baby Hitler will stop World War II either. This is because, for some reason or another, Deadpool 2 seems to now be following Avengers Endgame-style time travel rules. Deadpool's next appearance in live action is a little bizarre. In the Christmas movie Once Upon a Deadpool, Wade kidnaps an adult Fred Savage, ties him up in a replica of the bedroom from The Princess Bride, and reads him the story of Deadpool 2. This apparently lasts for 3 days. This movie mostly consisted of Deadpool 2 footage bookended by scenes with Wade and Fred. Its sole purpose was to deliver a PG-13 edit of the sequel that could be seen by younger teenagers and audiences in more censorious countries, such as China. Still, it had enough new jokes to convince some fans to sit through the parts they'd already seen. It also played quite well in China, where it was renamed Deadpool 2 I Love My Family and opened to $8.5 million. In the UK, however, the toned-down cut earned exactly the same 15 and over rating as the original version, rendering it mostly pointless from a box office standpoint. That said, a percentage of the profits at least went to fighting cancer. If you really want to, you could speculate that the kidnapping of Fred Savage suggests Deadpool now exists in a version of our own timeline, especially since they both discuss Brad Pitt, who played Vanisher in Deadpool 2, but that would probably be overthinking it. Here's what we know about the X-Men so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Earth 838, as seen in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, boasts a more eco-friendly New York City, as well as pizza served in spheres. But it also had a Professor X who looks exactly like Patrick Stewart, complete with a yellow wheelchair like the one from the animated universe. However, he is also dead now, killed by Wanda Maximoff of Earth 616, along with the rest of that universe's so-called Illuminati. Speaking of Wanda, she's canonically supposed to be Magneto's daughter. Said parentage couldn't be mentioned previously for legal reasons, but we don't really know where it stands now that Disney has the right to use Magneto's character. An alternate Pietro Maximoff certainly existed in the X-Men movies, and while he briefly seemed to have crossed into the main MCU, it turned out that this was merely an actor named Ralph who was brainwashed by the witch Agatha Harkness to mess with Wanda's head. Elsewhere on Earth 616, Namor and Kamala Khan have been confirmed as the MCU's first proper mutants.
Cosmic.
When universes ruptured in the Marvels as a result of Kree leader Dar-Ben using the quantum bands, a rift opened up into a parallel reality in which X-Men pals Beast and Professor X still exist. These characters encounter Monica Rambeau in one of that movie's post-credits scenes. Beast looks a bit different than we've seen before, but we can safely chalk that up to visual effects. Still, we're left wondering, are these the Fox X-Men or new variants? And what does that mean for Wade Wilson? Considering what we've seen with variants thus far, there's a strong likelihood that the Wolverine Wade encounters in Deadpool and Wolverine will not be the same one whose story we followed in the X-Men films. It's worth noting that the original Fox version of Wolverine died pretty definitively in Logan, though that movie was set clearly in the future relative to every other X-Men and MCU movie thus far. Deadpool could conceivably encounter the Logan of Logan prior to his death, but you'd think the future scene in that movie would be considerably less grim if the heroes in it knew about the multiverse. Since this Wolverine has a comics-accurate yellow suit, the more likely notion is that he comes from the same universe as the one in which Monica Rambeau is now trapped. And the trailers for Deadpool and Wolverine have given us one last curious clue about Wolverine's status in the multiverse. In a brief shot from the Deadpool and Wolverine teaser, we glimpse what appears to be Wolverine in a white suit at a gambling table. If that's indeed the case, this is most likely a scene from the character's time under the identity of Patch, a storyline in the comics that hasn't yet been presented in movie continuity. Following a period after the X-Men were believed dead and/or relocated to Australia, Wolverine resurfaced on the fictional island of Madripoor, where he utilized the clever disguise of a white suit and eye patch. Although, for some reason, he never considered restyling that incredibly distinctive haircut. Try to forget that, though. Going by the name of Patch, Logan ran missions out of a bar while operating in the midst of the world's criminal elite. Madripoor has actually been seen in the MCU. It appeared as the Power Broker's base of operations in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
If we have to do something about this, I'm the only one who looks like a pimp.
The show didn't give any indication of mutants operating there, even though that's what the location is primarily known for in the comics. If a version of Wolverine already exists in the MCU's sacred timeline, however, it's entirely possible he's been secretly operating as Patch on Madripoor this whole time. Of course, it's also important to recognize that some fans don't think that looks like Hugh Jackman at all, possibly indicating that Deadpool and Wolverine will feature a Wolverine variant played by a different actor. And anything is certainly possible in the chaos of the multiverse. The first trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine begins with a toupee-wearing Wade celebrating a birthday with a group of friends that somehow includes the very deceased Shatterstar, who was last seen being liquefied by helicopter blades. They're interrupted by agents of the Time Variance Authority, the interdimensional regulatory agency that drafted Loki into their ranks for 2 seasons of Loki. Right up until the whole tree thing happened, the TVA appears to tacitly acknowledge Deadpool's unique ability to understand events that occur outside of his own timeline, and they initially seem to make him an offer to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Despite this, the place in which he ends up seems to be mostly populated by heroes and villains such as Wolverine, Pyro, and Azazel. Some of these characters are wearing much more colorful costumes than their previous appearances, and a giant 20th Century Fox logo can be seen in the rubble. Which universe is this? Though it contains elements we've seen elsewhere, they appear in altogether unfamiliar configurations. Could this be the Void from Loki, where pruned variants go? Having 20th Century Fox be pruned from reality is exactly the kind of snarky joke we'd expect from the Deadpool franchise, but it seems we might have to wait a little longer to find out for sure.